We turn our attention to Egypt, where violence and death marked what the ousted president's supporters called a Friday of rage. Anti-Islamist celebrations after Mohamed Morsi's overthrow, they turned rather sour. At least 30 killed, over 200 injured in the clashes. More from Cairo, and RT's Paula Sleer.
Egypt is threatening to disintegrate into chaos. There have been violent street battles in the center of the capital city between both pro and anti-Morsi demonstrators. The two sides literally picking up chunks of pavement, hurling Molotov cocktails at each other. This violence going on for the better part of 3 hours before the army decided to get involved. Now, there are lots of questions being asked about the army. It's being accused of doing precious little and of taking sides. When the army did get involved in these clashes on the October the 6th bridge, they literally picked up some of these anti-Morsi demonstrators on the back of their vehicles, drove them over the bridge to the other side where their opponents were standing and fighting them from. The army has also denied reports that it used live ammunition earlier on Friday when a group of pro-Morsi supporters marched towards the barracks where it is believed that the former president is being housed. At least 3 people were killed in those clashes. There are real concerns that this country is disintegrating into violence. There have been mass rallies by both pro and anti-Morsi demonstrators, with the supreme guide of the Muslim Brotherhood addressing the one rally, and he said, and I'm quoting, "Our bare chests are stronger than bullets. God does not love a traitor." The Muslim Brotherhood threatening to continue this fight to the end. The divisions are extremely sharp, so much so that people are talking about a civil war. The difference between what is happening now and what we've seen in the past is that Morsi was a democratically elected president who was overthrown, and this is the point that his supporters are making. In fact, the pro-Morsi camp now wants to be known as the pro-democracy camp. But we have a situation that's not only disintegrating within Egypt, it's also happening now on the borders. Earlier on Friday, an airport in the Sinai was attacked by Islamists. At the same time, Islamists have taken over a number of government buildings in the Sinai. They've raised the Al-Qaeda flag, replacing the Egyptian flag that was there. Egypt has also closed its border with Gaza, and what we're witnessing, not only an extremely volatile situation, but a situation that does threaten to affect the Islamist extremists that operate along these countries' borders.
RT correspondent Paula Sleer. Now, the Muslim Brotherhood says that the national leaders who announced a new government on Wednesday do not represent their followers. Dr. Mohammed Abdulaziz, the leader of the Sacramento Islamic Center in America, he believes that undermining the power of the ballot box will only lead to catastrophe in Egypt.
What happened in Egypt is obviously Mubarak's military going back in order to take the country back to the old Mubarak men, as opposed to the revolutionaries. People who are cheering in the streets right now will be the first to cry tomorrow. But when we set the precedence that it's okay for people to go to the streets and for the military to oust an elected president, what happens next? So the country elects the other guy who happens to be a liberal or a socialist or whatever, and then the Islamists and the supporters of Morsi, millions of them, will take to the street, and then we oust the next guy, and then we keep going this. I mean, that's not a democracy anymore. That's the rule of the jungle.
And a global trends forecaster, Gerald Celente, he says in a poor country, any leader can reach the top via mob rule, but at the end of the day, that won't make a single bit of difference.
Well, it was the foundation of why the revolution began in the first place. It wasn't an Arab Spring. It was a lot of poor people. You had most of the people living on $10 a day. And that was the genesis behind, the foundation behind the Mubarak overthrow. And, you know, people want to live a higher standard of life, the vast corruption, all the money at the top of the pyramid, and the rest of the people having nothing. And then when Morsi came in, he made it worse. It wasn't that he was an Islamist so much. It could have been Mickey Mouse or Mohammed Morsi. It would have made no difference if the people had a standard of living that was going up rather than crashing as it was. You know about the long gasoline lines, tourism died virtually, and the country went into deeper poverty. And that's really the genesis behind all of these, or many of these uprisings around not only Egypt, but around the world.